Hey everybody, One Peg here. Not a Tarkov video. I know, right? One Peg not making a video about Tarkov? What's the world coming to? But anyway, I have been, for the last couple of weeks, playing an awful lot of the new map that has come out for Conan Exiles. And I know what you're thinking. Conan? Video game? Didn't that, fail miserably? Well, it's true that the MMO that they made years and years ago did not fare so well, and Funcom has a tendency to ruin their games with a lot of griefy mechanics. But in this case, the survival genre seems to be awful good for, I guess, griefers and toxic personalities alike, so naturally it fit right in with mine, right? Yeah, I've been playing a lot of this expansion. And the Isle of Siptah has an awful lot of new and interesting mechanics that slow the game curve down considerably. What I will say is that this new map, I absolutely love it. I like that the gameplay curve is slower. I like that the progression, whereby having slowed this down because of the mechanics, has made everything kind of chug along, and you can't max out inside of the first couple of days, you know? Getting those named thralls, for those of you that are relatively familiar with the game, takes a lot longer than the old game did, because there aren't any NPCs just kind of hanging out on the map. You have to summon them. Part of the summoning process, in order to be able to get the higher tiers of thralls that you want from these summoning areas, is you have to farm the Maelstrom. And the Maelstrom is this big storm that summons lots and lots of demons. Every time you kill a demon, you harvest it, and you get one of these, what I call essences. And there are lesser, unstable, which is kind of like the normie version, and then greater when you come across a boss. Now, in my case, I haven't actually, on the PvP official servers, come across a boss yet. But that doesn't really matter. While the greater essences themselves are worth 50 points for your summoning altar, which I'll get into in a different video. The normal ones, the unstable essences, are worth 2 points. So the idea with this is to farm by volume. Now, mechanically speaking, the way that the Maelstrom works is the longer the amount of time that you spend in it, the more aggressive the storm becomes toward you, where it summons lots and lots more angry demonic monsters that want to punch you in the face. And I think the reason why is because the storm eventually tries to push you out or overwhelm you, kind of like that scene in Starship Troopers. So you and potentially your pet and maybe even your horse end up having to do the runaway, where you get a handful of these things and have to start over with the next one, or run outside of the aggro radius of the storm itself and then kind of go back in, resetting this little internal timer. But here's the interesting thing. In a wide variety of spots all over the map, there are places where the monsters will just kind of aggro you and run at you, regardless of whether or not you're within arm's reach. And obviously, because of this geometric exploit, this is something that we as players can take advantage of. Now, I will say that I find this to be a little bit of a shady practice. However, given the extreme cost of the upper-level summoning that needs to get done, it's almost one of those things that you have to do. Otherwise, this would take an extremely long time to even get one halfway decent thrall. But this is how you do it. And you don't have to be built exactly like I am. You don't even have to be built anything like I am. In fact, the reason why I'm built like this is just because I've been doing some other testing with ranged weaponry and, kind of working through some other things that maybe I'll share with a later video or not. I don't know. But this video was taken on a PvP official server. So I can tell you that this is no way modified according to any server settings. This is just vanilla online PvP official Conan Exiles, which is the way that I prefer to play. So really all you need is a bow and some poison arrows. And if you're feeling frisky, you can also grab some set arrows. Now, for the duration of one storm, I would recommend about 100 of the poison gas arrows. If you want to, I guess, up your chances of making sure that you maximize it, you can spam even more of these should you want to, but I was kind of going for full duration on the poison clouds, and then refreshing them as they ended. So this spot that I've chosen for myself is one of many, many spots inside of the storm. This one located further toward the center. And the reason why I chose something as close to the center as I could is because the closer to the center you get, the more aggressive the storm is, whereby you get more and faster spawns. The other thing that I can tell you is that the more people that you have working together, the more aggressive the storm also becomes. So if you have a group of 2 or 3 or 4, you will see a lot more monsters swarming you. But even just solo, this is more than enough to make it worthwhile. Now, if you want to do some extra damage and really start working down some baddies, you need an awful lot of set arrows. Now, this isn't something that's absolutely required, but you will kind of min-max this opportunity. But you need way more set arrows than what I brought, even way more than the number of poison arrows that I brought. Probably triple the amount. I'd say either 300 or 400. So in this case, if you really want to max out, you're going to have to farm an awful lot of human hearts, which may not necessarily be the easiest thing depending on how available these wild surge portals are for you. But the name of the game with this is all about chip damage. What you want to do is find an elevated position like this or any of the other various elevated positions around the map and, very boringly, stand still. Now, one of the interesting mechanics about Conan is that when you aim any type of area of effect attack at a ground position, wherever that poison cloud, in this instance, shows up, has a bit of a larger radius of effect than what is actually being displayed on the screen. Meaning that if you get just a little close to it, even though you might not actually have been centered on it, rather than it making another poison cloud that kind of overlaps the existing one, all it will do is refresh the existing poison. And we can use this mechanic, again, to our advantage. So when it comes to this, what will eventually happen is the number of enemies that you're going to face is going to become overwhelmingly large, to where they're not all going to fit inside of one of these poison clouds anymore. So you kind of have to spread the damage out a bit more to maximize your results. But we obviously don't want to use double the number of arrows. So what we do is we kind of aim towards, say, our 10 o'clock and fire an arrow there, and then aim towards, say, our 3 o'clock and fire an arrow over there, kind of making this little 2-point wedge. The reason why we do this is because it creates 2 poison clouds. Now, remember what I said. There is a little bit of overlap here. Because of the area of effect of our poison cloud arrow, when it, I guess, explodes on the ground, that explosion, that release of gas clipping over both of the existing gas clouds actually refreshes both of them. So now, rather than only having 1 arrow refreshing 1 spot, we have 1 arrow refreshing 2. And this is how we maximize our damage output. So we can spread the poison across more enemies at once. Now for the set arrows. The reason why we use the set arrows is basically for these red spider demons. They have the largest HP pool of just about anything we're going to interact with in this spot, or any other spot for that matter. As the storm summons them, they tend to last an awful long time. And when they last an awful long time, they end up kind of taking up all of this real estate in front of you, where the smaller mobs, the ones that die faster, can't get in. So what you want to do is start chipping away at their HP with the set arrows. You know, just kind of work at them slowly and methodically, get up the 10 stacks of poison, just kind of keep refreshing it until they fall. But this will drastically increase the speed at which they die. Like 2, 3, 4 times faster than what you'll see from just letting the poison cloud tick away at them. Now, obviously, it becomes a case in point where either you run out of arrows, you don't feel like spending that, you don't want to have to farm for it, whatever. You'll still get a very large number of these essences regardless, so you just kind of want to keep refreshing the clouds. The clouds are the obviously most important part here. So if you want to kind of maximize your output but minimize your cost, you want to make sure that you're every 15 to 20 seconds kind of shooting in between those 2 poison clouds and refreshing them. Now, there may be an instance where these green demon spiders, the spitters as I call them, end up kind of chipping away your health a little bit more than you're comfortable with. In which case, you have two options. One, you can counteract that by bringing stuff to heal yourself. So health pots always are nice. Aloe soup, that kind of stuff. Ambrosia is very nice, obviously. Or your second option is a fallback plan. So if you notice, in the case of my character here, I've run out of feasts, and I no longer have the ability to give myself a sated buff, which was the way that I was regenning my HP because I didn't feel like burning aloe potions. In this case, all you have to do is fall back to a position where, again, they can't see or shoot you. In this case, it also corrals them right up against the cliff edge, so they can't advance past this certain point. And while I'm not now able to really maximize the damage output because I'm not able to maintain 2 clouds at one time because of where I'm located, just being too hard of an angle to hit, I still can get a substantial number of kills. And then once the storm ends, you have the ability to go and farm all of your bounty up off of the ground. A couple of things of note. The storm will last longer than you have corpses to farm, meaning that eventually they will start to despawn. So, depending on your group and whether or not you want to chance it, you have the ability to maybe have a buddy with some really heavy armor go around and try to, like, hack away at some of the carcasses, you know, sporadically located around the outside edges from your earlier kills. So that way, at least you can farm up that stuff before the bodies despawn, leaving just kind of like a loot bag behind. The other option here would be to just say the heck with it and let them despawn because you're going to net a significant amount on the back end anyway. But the other thing of note here, and the other thing to remember, is that this is a broken mechanic. And the reason why I say it's a broken mechanic is because it doesn't seem like there's any type of cap on the number of enemies that will spawn and try and chase you down. Which means that if you have a relatively populated server that's being relatively active, it's going to cause an awful lot of lag during the Maelstrom. You can see here, even with me solo playing earlier on in the morning when hardly anyone was on, that the server FPS, which is the real indicator of server performance in this case, is dropping off significantly. In order to turn this on, by the way, what you do is you hit the tilde key to bring up the console, and you type in toggle debug HUD, and it will bring up this nice little report that tells you how many people are online, the average ping for you and your client, and the server's frame rate. So if you ever notice during the Maelstrom that the server's frame rate is dropping off significantly, it's usually because someone is trying to do this type of farming method in the Maelstrom. The more people that are present, the worse it gets. And the reason why is because the server is constantly spawning more and more entities, which we refer to as actors. Because there's so many actors on the screen at one time, and because so much damage is being done across so many actors, the server is trying to log all of this data at once. When the server tries to log all of this data at once, it slows down the server's performance, which inherently creates the issue. Conan historically has had lag problems with its online game, and unfortunately, G-Portal, in my opinion, is not the greatest provider of servers in the world. But, you know, they've had a contract with Funcom for this game for a long time, so we kind of deal with what we deal with. I've been toying with the idea of starting my own server, but I digress. The easiest way to fix this would be just to simply cap off the number of monsters that can be around any one person simultaneously at any one time. Even if you had a group of 4 or 5 people and it was capped at 10, it would still be less than the number of mobs that are present on the screen right here for me right now. There's just too many things going on at once. The server is having a hard time keeping track of it all. The other way to possibly deal with this would just be to tell the mobs to run away. If they can't reach you, they wait 5 seconds, they turn around and leave. That already happens with certain mobs like the wasp ones, where they'll aggro for a while, but once they realize they can't hit you, they'll leave. But it doesn't seem like any of these other demons will do that. As long as you're doing damage to them, they'll keep trying to come at you. 2 pretty simple solutions for fixing this issue. The other option that they have would be to give a bigger benefit for the essences that drop. So that way, even though you're farming less monsters, you're still netting about the same benefit. And it would drastically, again, improve server performance. Aside from that, I'm not sure what other optimizations there could be, but again, I'm not like a netcode expert of any kind. So, you know, maybe Funcom knows what they're doing, and I don't. I don't know. But until this method is fixed, this is the most effective way that you can do it. Minimal effort, minimal damage, maximum results, and it's something that you can do on a regular basis. I would just say be mindful of the environment that you're playing in, and if you can, try and do this in some like off-hour type of time so that you're not ruining everyone else's gameplay. Because Conan as a PvP game is griefy enough. We don't really need help with making it worse. You know what I mean? But that's what I have, guys. Thank you so much for your time. I hope you enjoyed the video and my venture into something that is other than Tarkov. Looking forward to doing some more content about some other games. But as we know, Tarkov has got a patch coming, so we'll be dumping right back into that very, very soon. Thank you, guys. We'll see you. Peace.